Welcome back to the Metro on 1019 WDET FM. I'm Tia Graham. It's time for a conversation with a local group that helps to defend democracy. I'm talking about the Detroit Documenters. They play a vital role in improving our access to information. They attend a range of public meetings and document what leaders and community members are saying. And their work helps us understand how government agencies, boards, and commissions work. That brings us to the Board of Police Commissioners. It oversees the Detroit Police Department for the community. It's also in charge of approving promotions. Earlier this week, 2 commissioners voted against the promotion of an officer. It's something that rarely happens. Metro producer Jack Philbrandt sat down with Detroit documenter Nachum Eichenhorn and coordinator Noah Kincaid to learn more about the Board of Police Commissioners' role.
The Board of Police Commissioners was founded in the 1970s in order to provide oversight to the Detroit Police Department and hear cases of misconduct and citizen complaints and decide and mete out consequences to those complaints if they're sustained.
Why is police oversight and commissions like the Board of Police Commissioners important?
Police are a unique element of local government. They are empowered to do enormously consequential things to people in very short and acute amounts of time. They can arrest people, they can shoot people to death, and having oversight over that aspect of the government is vital to the security of the citizenry of the city or state or country, and vital to the preservation of their liberty, in short. And it's more important than, if somebody in the city clerk's office is pocketing the money people pay for dog licenses, there is a upper limit to the damage that can cause, not only to the government itself, but to the public. Police, that's not the issues that they typically face. Police are dealing with the apprehension and punishment of citizens for crimes. They reach out and touch people physically, and that requires a higher degree of scrutiny.
Noah, how is the BOPC involved when it comes to police discipline?
I mean, they're investigating complaints, right? And then if a complaint against an officer is sustained, they will forward that on back to DPD to met out those consequences. Let's say the chief decides to suspend an officer. He can do that without their approval. He can just suspend them. If he wants to remove the pay from that officer or do anything that's going to affect their seniority, that has to go before the board and get approved. So that's kind of like one kind of direct way that they affect the discipline process. But another kind of indirect way is that one of their core missions, as laid out in the city charter, is they actually set the policies for the police department. And in those policies, they can describe exactly like what are the offenses that will earn discipline, right? And they work on those with the chief of police. He can weigh in on those policies, and the mayor can approve or not approve those policies. So it's a collaboration. But I mean, they definitely play a role in determining what is an offense worth discipline, right, in the police department.
While the BOPC is a public body, Noah, can you talk about why a lot of the commission's work is done in closed session?
They'll meet for hours, and maybe a closed session will last like 30 minutes. But I like how you framed that question, because it's really the substantial part of the work they're supposed to be doing that gets done in closed session. So, there are legal reasons behind it. The Open Meetings Act allows for only a few instances that allow you to meet in a closed session. So if you are discussing a legal matter with your lawyer, right? If you are discussing HR matters, and I think probably most of Most of the conversations they have in closed session are for that HR role, right? They're discussing a specific police officer and what they've done or what is on their personnel file. And anytime that happens, if the officer requests that conversation happen in closed session, it has to happen in closed session.
While there are legal reasons for going into closed session, do you think that it makes community oversight more difficult?
So the community oversight is supposed to be being conducted by this board, by this body, right? They are literally elected and or appointed. There's 4 members are appointed by the mayor, but the other 7 are elected by their district members, by the constituents to represent their district, right? And their job is to provide the community oversight for us. So yeah, they're still able to do that job because they get to be in the closed session and they get to read the files and they have access to all this information. But we as residents in the community, what it prohibits is it prohibits our ability to oversee the Board of Police Commissioners, right? To look over their shoulder and make sure that they are actually representing our best interests and not maybe those of the city or the police department.
We're talking with Detroit documenter Malcolm Eichenhorn and coordinator Noah Kincaid. We're learning more about Detroit's Board of Police Commissioners. Malcolm, one of the roles of the BOPC is approving the promotions of officers to higher ranks. Could you talk about the process when it comes to this?
The process is essentially this. The several officers will be brought up at a time for promotion for reasons that the chief will rarely discuss. And then they will be voted on by the board. However, the board is not actually empowered to deny those promotions. Those are covered by the police union's collective bargaining agreement. And because of that, the most they can do is vote it down almost as a symbolic gesture of disapproval before that question will go to a union arbitration board and they'll get promoted.
Having covered the BOPC meetings, have you seen an officer ever be denied promotion by the commission?
In my entire time covering the Board of Police Commissioners, I have seen promotions get voted down twice in a single session last August. And it was made clear during that proceeding that this would not be effective in any real way besides stalling the promotion for however long it takes to get through the arbitration.
Malcolm, you covered the BOPC meeting on May 1st. How many officers were promoted at that meeting?
At that meeting, I believe 4 officers were promoted.
One of the officers promoted to lieutenant is Briar Creech, and we have a clip from Commissioner Linda Bernard talking at the meeting.
His complaint history is very disturbing.
Okay.
There have been a number of complaints that were sustained for criminal misconduct.
Why did Commissioner Linda Bernard and Darrell Woods object to the promotion of Briar Creech?
I don't know. I don't know. That's the real answer. Commissioner Bernard said that there were several, as you heard, criminal complaints sustained against Officer Creech. But beyond that, she revealed nothing, and the chief revealed nothing. I will say, criminal complaint is a pretty serious thing to have brought against a police officer, and even more serious to have it sustained. Those are both very difficult to do. But this is typical of this process. I don't know, and none of us know what Linda Bernard's objection was, because we don't have access to any of the information that's relevant to that objection.
Noah, were you surprised by Linda Bernard's objection? Did anything stand out to you when it came to this?
I was actually surprised by the fact that she objected to it and she raised this issue because I've seen so many of these over the years, and typically Commissioner Linda Bernard is the one person who is arguing to support whatever the chief is recommending, right? Like if the chief puts this forward, which really kind of flies in the face of the fact that he's obligated to put these forward due to the collective bargaining agreement. She's always like, let's defer to their judgment. I pulled up the minutes from the August meeting that Knockham was talking about when they actually did deny the promotions of 2 officers, which just meant they were going to end up basically having to go represent that decision in arbitration with those officers and the union. But in those decisions, most of the board voted no against those officers, and she abstained rather than vote no. Right? She didn't vote yes. She didn't vote no. She just abstained, and which counts. I mean, it counts as a no vote, but it's very rare that she's going to vote no on these. So I found that really interesting. Right? That whatever is in his file, she found so objectionable. I think she used the word disturbing, right?
Noah, what is the commission looking at to make these decisions, and why can't the public and media see it?
Man, you got me. I think there are laws concerning it. There's laws concerning its personnel files, but and honestly, with enough money and a FOIA request, we probably could and get this file, this complaint file. It could take months, and then by the time you've paid the money and you've waited the months and you've done everything you need to get this request, it could arrive to you and be fully redacted, right? So, there's kind of probably more systemic issues at play here, and if we wanted to resolve them, we'd probably need to pass a law at the state level, or improve the Open Meetings Act or the FOIA laws, But I'm not a lawyer, so it's hard for me to answer that question. I just know that that they're looking at things that we can't see.
I think it really gets to kind of the faith that community members are putting in the Board of Police Commissioners to do their job, which is looking out for the community and our concerns when it comes to the police.
Yeah, it's so important, and it, this just like brings up how important it is to have the right people sitting on this board. And listen, it's some of these commissioners got elected with like several hundred votes total. Like, I'm not saying they won by several hundred. I'm saying like only like a couple hundred people voted for them, and that was more than anyone else, right? So they're pretty attainable positions to get. And if anyone listening to this is involved in grassroots activism and cares about police accountability, or you're working with a police accountability group, you should be putting one of your members or yourself on the ballot, and you should be running for one of these seats.
I will say, you mentioned the faith that the people are putting in the Board of Police Commissioners. I think it's important to point out that they are not putting that faith in them voluntarily. This body was convened explicitly because the people had lost faith in the police department, and now they are being required to simply put faith in a half a dozen more people.
Yeah.
And another layer of opacity instead of transparency, or because they are so loving and trusting of their government.
That was producer Jack Philbrand talking with Detroit documenter Knockham Eichenhorn and coordinator Noah Kincaid about Detroit's Board of Police Commissioners. Producer Lauren Myers contributed to this segment as well. Coming up, young men are not going to college at the same rate as young women. We spoke with one young man who has had success going to a different route after he graduated from high school. You all stay right there on the Metro. We will be right back.